All right, good afternoon, everyone. I have 12 o'clock, so we're going to get started. Welcome to the Water Ambassador Program. Water Ambassador Program is a partnership program between Martin County and the University of Florida IFAS Extension, and it's a stormwater education and outreach program to try and engage and educate the community along the Treasure Coast on water quality and stormwater issues and solutions. So this is actually the last of our webinars for the 2024 year. So thank you for joining us with that. And we most recently concluded our field trip. So thanks to those of you who were able to join us at the Florida Oceanographic Society and learn a little bit about the seagrass restoration that's happening in the lower Indian River Lagoon. As always, we are recording the webinars and they will be posted on the Martin County Extension YouTube page. We'll put this link in the chat for you, or you can just Google Martin County Extension YouTube. Just give us about a week to get it posted. Questions are always welcome, but we ask that you use the chat feature to do that, so you can enter your questions throughout the duration of the presentation, and then at the end of the presentation, we'll address the questions in the order in which they came. And with that, I am really pleased to introduce our last webinar speaker this year. Mary is actually a repeat performer. I think she joined us in 2020 for some of the Water Ambassador presentations. So Dr. Mary Lusk is an assistant professor in the Soil, Water, and Ecosystem Sciences Department at UF's Gulf Coast Research and Education Center. She's based over on the West Coast in Hillsborough County, but you'll find that her research still has a lot of relevance to what's happening here on the East Coast and the Treasure Coast. Mary works in research and extension on urban water quality, including stormwater, reclaimed water management, nutrient management in urban landscapes, and connections between urban landscapes and downstream water quality. She works with stakeholders at the state, national, and international levels to provide expertise on ways to improve water quality and develop water supply resilience in the face of land use change and climate change. So with that, I want to thank Mary for joining us, and I'm going to turn it over to her.
All right, thank you, Lisa and Vincent. Vincent, thank you so much for doing the Water Ambassador Program and inviting me to come again. It's something I always enjoy being a part of. And today I'm going to be presenting some work and some extension ideas on using reclaimed water in urban landscapes, using that water for irrigation specifically. And so we titled the project, Streets Don't Grow, Best Management Practices for Irrigating with Reclaimed Water. And I don't know if you can see it really well from the picture here, but it was supposed to show how there's the sprinklers that are irrigating that little patch of green space there in an urban landscape, but you see the wet road all around it because of that wasteful irrigation water. And so that's where we got the idea of titling this Streets Don't Grow, because we don't need to irrigate streets and sidewalks. And so I'm going to present today some research that was done on the east coast of Florida, specifically in Martin and St. Lucie counties, on the nutrient contents of that water and talk about some of the implications of that and ways that we can better manage irrigation so that we avoid situations like this where we're wasting water and applying the nutrients from that reclaimed water to our streets and sidewalks and waterways. Just really quickly, by way of acknowledgement, a good portion of this work was funded by the South Florida Water Management District. So definitely want to provide appreciation to them for supporting this work. Some really quick objectives for the next half hour or so. We're going to just describe an overview of reclaimed water irrigation in Florida and in the Indian River Lagoon area. And then we'll describe some of the characteristics of that reclaimed water when it's used for residential irrigation, as well as define irrigation overspray and discuss research about potential water quality problems associated with overspray. And then finally, we'll wrap up by discussing some best management practices for irrigating urban areas and urban green spaces with reclaimed water. What is reclaimed water? It's also known as recycled water or reuse water. It is former domestic wastewater that has been treated and disinfected at a wastewater treatment plant. So think about all of the water that leaves your home and it goes to the wastewater treatment plant, rather from the kitchen, from the bathrooms, from washing machines, all of that municipal wastewater is sent to a wastewater treatment plant and treated. And then after it is treated, that treated water can be disposed of, or it can be reused for some type of beneficial purpose. And most often in Florida, that beneficial reuse purpose is for urban lawn irrigation. Reclaimed water, again, is produced at wastewater treatment plants. And at the wastewater treatment plant, there's a couple different processes that can take place. The first of those is primary treatment, where that sewage that comes in, all of that wastewater from homes all around your community, it comes in and it's held in a basin so that the solids can settle out. That's the first level of treatment, called primary treatment. After that, we have secondary treatment, where the water that's left behind is chemically and or biologically treated to further remove impurities and pathogens and nutrients like nitrogen and phosphorus and other chemical and biological substances that may be a contaminant in that water. At that point, we can consider it usually adequately treated for many of our reuse purposes. There are some wastewater treatment plants in Florida that go beyond secondary treatment to advanced treatment processes to further remove harmful chemicals and pathogens. This would be to reduce nutrient levels, reduce nitrogen and phosphorus levels even lower than they would be with secondary treatment, or to have some sort of advanced treatment to remove some of those organic chemicals that we hear about sometimes, like the emerging contaminants, pharmaceuticals, and household chemicals that can be part of the waste stream that are hard to remove sometimes just from regular secondary treatment at wastewater treatment plants. But not all of our wastewater treatment plants in Florida have advanced treatment. But all of the reclaimed water that we use in Florida does at least have secondary treatment. And that goes right into the Florida statutes that state that water, to be reclaimed water in Florida, is water that has received at least secondary treatment and basic disinfection and is reused after flowing out of a domestic wastewater treatment facility. So right there from the Florida statutes, that's the water that we're talking about, and the level of treatment, the minimum level of treatment that it has received. In Florida, this water is regulated by Florida DEP, the Department of Environmental Protection. It is transmitted in purple pipes that are kept separate from drinking water. So if you have a community that has reclaimed water, all of the reclaimed water that's coming into that community is completely transmitted in pipes that are separate from your potable drinking water pipes. And that's just to keep those water sources separate, so that we don't drink that reclaimed water or have access to that as drinking water. Any area that uses that must post the signs to alert the public that reclaimed water is used in that area and to alert people not to drink it. And we want to make sure that people know that it's not for sanitary or for drinking purposes. And again, that's just out of an abundance of caution. We want to make sure that we keep that treated wastewater separate from our potable supplies. Though Florida is pilot testing applications and treatment technologies that will allow us to increase our reuse of reclaimed water, including potable reuse. So this would involve treatment technologies that allow us to have more advanced treatment and contaminant removal from that treated wastewater, and turning it into a product that can be sent to our water treatment plants and then go through further polishing and treatment at a water supply plant, and then sent to communities for potable reuse. We're working on that. Many parts of the country and the world are. We're looking more and more into this idea of using our reclaimed water for some type of potable reuse. And there's talk that, within the next 10, 20 years from now, using it as irrigation water may be, oh, that's so 2020s. We don't do that anymore. We use it all for drinking water. So we're moving in that direction. And we're looking more and more at technologies at the wastewater treatment plant that will allow us to reach that level of treatment so that we can do that. And that's all being overseen by Florida DEP. We sometimes get asked if reclaimed water is the same as gray water, and the answer to that is no. So the distinction here is that gray water is wastewater from households and businesses that still contains fecal contamination, or that contains no fecal contamination, I'm sorry. It comes from things like laundries and your bathtubs and your showers, not from the toilet. And the difference here between that and reclaimed water is that it's reused right at the place of origin. Such as in your household again, or in your backyard garden, or whatever, somewhere right there close to your house. It's not sent to a wastewater treatment plant for some type of treatment. So gray water is just water that's used in your home with no fecal contamination and then reused in some sort of household application. Top 3 reclaimed water users in the United States. You will see Florida leads the United States. We lead by quite a bit. The second states that use the most reclaimed water after that are California and Texas. But Florida is the national leader at over 800 million gallons per day. And we've been using reclaimed water for decades in Florida. We do so to help with our water supply resilience. If we are using that reclaimed water instead of potable groundwater supplies, it's a great way to offset our dependence on groundwater supplies and a great way to give resilience to our groundwater supplies, especially with our growing population in the state and other pressures that we face. We need to find ways to expand our water supply portfolio, so to speak, and reusing that treated wastewater becomes a great way of offsetting potable use and conserving our groundwater supplies. And so we've been doing that for decades in Florida, and we continue to lead the nation in that. Currently in Florida, you see this pie chart that divides up how we use reclaimed water in the state. This is one of the most recent data published by Florida DEP for 2023. And about 64% of it, that big blue chunk of the pie chart here, is public access. And it's really mostly lawn irrigation in residential communities that depend on reclaimed water for lawn irrigation. So that's mostly what we mean for public access. That can also be golf courses and urban green spaces. Like if you have a community green space in your neighborhood that's irrigated with reclaimed water, that would all fall under this category of public access. There are a couple of other categories of reuse though in Florida. You see there, the orange portion of that is for wetland hydration. So in some cases we have areas where we send that water out to add water supply to natural ecosystems, including wetland ecosystems where perhaps otherwise they're feeling some development pressure and not getting the water that it needs year round. So we can use that reclaimed water to help provide more of that hydration that the natural ecosystems need. There's also industrial reuses, and agricultural irrigation is another one as well. So about 6% of that we produce in the state is used to irrigate agricultural crops, whether food or for fodder. Either one, both can be irrigated with reclaimed water in the state. Briefly, just to talk about some constituents of concern in reclaimed water. Again, it is treated and disinfected, but it still can have some constituents that we need to be aware of, and that we, for whatever purpose that it's being used for. So I want to just talk very briefly about some of the things that are in it still and why we're concerned about those. First of all, one of the biggest constituents of concern in reclaimed water is salts and inorganic compounds. So this would be sodium and chloride and boron. Those are very high levels in reclaimed water that's used for irrigation because those chemical compounds are in a lot of household products. And after secondary treatment at the wastewater treatment plant, a lot of those chemical elements are still in the reclaimed water. So we'll see sometimes sodium and chloride levels in reclaimed water to be 10 times higher than they would be in potable water. And the picture that I have here is a mango tree in someone's landscape, and you see the tips of that that plant are damaged and looking very brown and damaged. And that's just from salt damage. Mango trees are very susceptible to salt damage. And so one of the management practices that we recommend is if you are irrigating with reclaimed water is to be aware that it can have some excess salts in it. And we need to recognize that and make sure that we're using salt tolerant plants in the landscape if you are using that in your lawn. Also, we need to be aware of that when we're using reclaimed water to irrigate for agriculture as well, because some of our agricultural food crops are very salt sensitive, and we need to make sure that we're supplying water to crops that can tolerate a little bit of excess salt in them. If you are irrigating in your landscape, just some general ideas here for using that reclaimed water. Most landscapes can tolerate up to about 400 parts per million of dissolved salts. And so maybe have that water tested, take your irrigation water to your local extension office and talk to them about how to get it tested for salts, and be aware of how much are in there so that you can have your landscape plants accordingly. Some exceptions, some plants that are really salt sensitive are azalea and Chinese privet. So if you have those, then you want to especially be careful. And it's just some guidelines for irrigating with reclaimed water so that you don't have damage from salts. Is again, get your water and your soil tested, plant salt tolerant species, and then watch for those indications of salt damage, like leaf yellowing or curling up. And consider just drip irrigation for sensitive species if yellowing occurs. And so drip irrigation is going to apply a lot less water right to the root zone, and it's going to be a great way of preventing that buildup of the salts right there at the soil root zone of your landscape plants. And here's the nitty-gritty of what we want to talk about today. We're really concerned about nutrients. I'm going to focus quite a bit on nutrients in the rest of my talk. Nutrients, by nutrients we mean nitrogen and phosphorus, and both of which we are very concerned about for our Florida water quality perspective. They are both contribute to our harmful algal blooms and other water quality impairments that we have throughout the state in our inland waters and our coastal waters. And so we're very concerned about the levels of nitrogen and phosphorus in any source in the environment that may be contributing those to our landscapes. And those sources can be fertilizers, they can be pet waste, it can be soils and vegetation, but it can also be reclaimed water if we're irrigating our urban landscapes with that water. Because even after secondary treatment at the wastewater treatment plant, there's still going to be some elevated level of nitrogen and phosphorus in that water. And so not all of that is removed by the wastewater treatment process. And so when we irrigate with that, we're irrigating with water that already has nitrogen and phosphorus in it. And this is just some numbers to give you an idea of concentrations of what types of concentrations for total nitrogen, total phosphorus might be in secondary treated wastewater versus advanced treatment wastewater. And there's a big difference. And so look at this, the middle column and the far right column, and maybe just focus in on nitrate, nitrogen, and inorganic phosphorus. So for secondary treated wastewater, we have about 1.4 parts per million, but that goes down to 0.7 when we have advanced treatment. And for secondary treated wastewater, we have about 3.4 milligrams per liter or parts per million inorganic phosphorus, and that goes down to 0.1 with advanced treatment. But again, not all of our wastewater treatment plants in Florida have that advanced wastewater treatment technology. And so in many cases, we're looking at numbers close to that middle value, water that's been only secondarily treated, and it still has quite a bit of elevated nitrogen and phosphorus in it. And those levels are still reasonably high. So we just need to be aware of how we use that water, because we're very concerned about nutrient pollution in all of our Florida water bodies. Quickly as well, we can also have potentially some pathogens in reclaimed water. And in Florida, there are no documented cases of infection from reclaimed water, but just to be careful, be sure that if you're using that to irrigate your backyard garden, or if you're come into contact with it while you're irrigating your lawn, be sure to wash your hands and wash any veggies that you are growing in your garden, just out of an abundance of caution. When irrigating with reclaimed water, also be sure to remember that overwatering is overwatering, and we can still overwater with reclaimed, even though in many parts of the state it's free or it's not metered and not restricted in use in some parts of the state, but you can still cause damage to your landscape. So be sure to still follow irrigation recommendations, whatever your local extension office recommends. In most cases, that's 3/4 of an inch to an inch per week. And use devices like a rain sensor or soil moisture sensor to avoid irrigating when it's raining, and that will help prevent damage to your lawn from just overwatering, even if you're using reclaimed water. So, all right, so let's jump to this idea of overspray. We talked about this earlier already, and here's a picture of it again. You can see the sprinklers on the right side irrigating the lawn, but you also see all of this water on the street. And this is a pathway of excess nutrient transport to water bodies if you're irrigating with reclaimed water. So we think about those nutrient levels that we talked about just a few minutes ago, that excess nitrogen and excess phosphorus in that water. And when we're irrigating the streets and sidewalks, sometimes it just starts to flow down the street, and we probably have all seen that, and becomes part of the stormwater conveyance system, which then goes in some cases to a canal, which is connected to the Indian River Lagoon or to another water body, or sometimes it goes to a local community stormwater pond. And that can always be a source of the nutrients that fuel harmful algal blooms in those waters. So we're really focused on avoiding this process right here. And for the next little bit, I'm going to just talk about some research that we recently did in the Indian River Lagoon watershed. This was done by master's student Dylan Barr in my lab, and again, funded by the South Florida Water Management District. So Dylan was interested in two things. He wanted to know how much overspray occurs. What is the occurrence of that situation where people are irrigating the streets and sidewalks? And what is the nutrient concentration of that water that is converted to overspray? So he had a couple methods that he used. One of the first things he did was use a drone to fly over neighborhoods when the sprinklers were running in the morning. So usually this meant being out at like 6, 7 o'clock in the morning when a lot of people were irrigating their lawns, and would go through and capture an image of that overspray area like you see in the pictures here. And then we used some spatial software that allowed us to take those images and convert that to an area on the ground. And there's a couple of techniques behind that, but basically we were able to just upload the image and upload as well a known reference scale. In the very bottom of the puddle there on the right side picture, you see there's actually a meter stick, which gives us a known distance. And so the software that we use is able to take that and the image around it and convert it to an area on the ground. So then we had something like 0.05 acres or some sort of area that we could say was overspray in a neighborhood. And we wanted then to convert that area on the ground to a depth of water. And so we also set up these irrigation catch cans in the neighborhood when this was going on, so that we could capture that water as it was hitting the streets and the sidewalks and other impervious surfaces. And these catch cans were graduated. They had graduated collection cups so that we could measure the depth of water in each of those cases. So then we had a depth of water for each lawn that we ran this test on that we could say was overspray. So it might be 1 inch of water, or 2 inches of water, whatever the case may be. And then he took that same water and analyzed it for nutrient concentrations for nitrogen and phosphorus. And once we had the depth of water times the area on the ground, we can convert that to volume. And once we had that, we can multiply it times nutrient concentration, and that would give us a nutrient load. And a nutrient load just means like pounds of nitrogen or pounds of phosphorus. So we could say how many pounds of nitrogen, for example, was released as overspray from a lawn when this was going on while they were irrigating every week. Okay, so here's some results. So from his test of just looking at how much overspray occurred. This is, we're not getting at nutrient loads yet, just how much does this take place? How much overspray is this? On average, we found it was about 33.7% or about 34%. So in other words, about 34% of irrigation water applied throughout the research neighborhoods that we were in. About 34% of that was wastefully applied as overspray to streets and sidewalks and parking areas and other impervious surfaces. And here's the nutrient concentrations of some of those samples. We did have different study sites. We had one in Jensen Beach Country Club and one in Harbor Ridge. And we also had a site in Willoughby Cay in Martin County, which irrigates only with groundwater. We did that as a comparison. So we had 2 sites irrigating with reclaimed water and one irrigating with just potable groundwater as a comparison. And you can see some of the numbers there, maybe focus in on total nitrogen. So Jensen Beach running about 5.6 milligrams per liter. That's really high, actually. Harbor Ridge down to 0.8. And the difference there is that many times different communities do have different concentrations of nutrients in their reclaimed water because of either how it's treated at the plant that's supplying that water, or because of practices in the community before they use it. And in the case of Harbor Ridge, they were diluting their reclaimed water with canal water. So that's why their values were lower than those at Jensen Beach. But you can see compared to the potable groundwater, all those nutrient concentrations were still elevated in both neighborhoods. And when we take those nutrient concentrations and try to think, okay, how much is each lawn contributing to nutrients in the community because of reclaimed water overspray? These are some of the numbers, and the HR stands for Harbor Ridge. That's the ones that's diluting with canal water, and Jensen Beach community. Big difference there, right? Again, just because of differences in the concentration of nutrients in that water. But based on the results we're looking at, in the higher concentration neighborhood, each lawn could be applying every year about 3 pounds of TDM, which is total dissolved nitrogen, and about 0.3 pounds of total phosphorus, which may be right there all that's necessary for the nutrient needs and the fertilizer needs of those lawns. We need to do some research still to verify that, but that's quite a bit of nutrient fertilizer that we're adding just with the irrigation water. So and again, just look at the huge difference there between the 2 areas. And so it's another area where we need to be aware of and continue to do some more research, because it varies so much between communities and throughout the watershed, throughout the water management district. But again, a really good idea to do is, if you are irrigating with reclaimed water, contact that water supplier, the utility or the wastewater treatment plant, and find out what your nutrient concentrations are, because they may be on the high end like this, and we need to be aware of how much of those nutrients we're applying when we irrigate with that water. And, also just from a water conservation perspective, so even without the nutrients in that water, again, remember, overwatering is overwatering, and overspray is still an issue. It's wasteful use of a valuable resource, especially here in Florida, where we're dealing with water scarcity issues. And, but, by way of reminder, we saw about 34% waste of total reclaimed water use. And that comes out to, if we extrapolate that statewide, it comes out to over 300 million gallons a day. So if you think about every time you drive down the street and you see the sprinklers running and they're hitting the streets and the sidewalk, statewide, that's probably about 300 million gallons of water a day that's lost through that wasteful process. And so best management practices to reduce that overspray are really crucial. And so let's look at some of those best management practices. First of all, as we've said already, just know the composition of your reclaimed water. If you are using that to irrigate your lawn, contact your water provider. In most cases, that will be your utility provider, or look on the internet and see if they have information. I find it varies a lot around the state. Some utilities have that very readily online, others it's not so easy to find. So give them a call if you have to, and see if you can get some information on the nutrient content of that water that you're using. So they should be able to provide that information for you. And then once you have that information, if that report is difficult to understand for some reason, or you want to know how to convert that to pounds of nitrogen in your yard, contact your local extension office. I promise you there are people there who can help you make sense of that report and do those calculations. Another important management practice is to use the Florida-friendly landscaping principles. And in Florida-friendly landscaping, we talk about the importance of right plant in the right place. And so in this case, landscape your lawn with plants that can handle the elevated salts, and that would be definitely using the right plants in the right place and not keep putting in salt intolerant species in a lawn that's irrigated with reclaimed water, because you just may be having to replace it every year or so. Really important best management practice is to keep that irrigation equipment working properly. So a good rule of thumb is to check your system 2 to 4 times a year, and just to make sure there are no broken lines or sprinkler heads, because it's easy sometimes to have that one on the side of the house that you never go out and see very often, and maybe it's broken. Maybe the landscape guy hit it with the lawnmower and it's geysering out and spilling water everywhere. Go out a couple of times a year and check. Just walk around and check and make sure that those lines are still good. Every couple of months, do a wet check or an audit of the system to check for application volume and uniformity. And again, if that is something that you would like more information on, your extension office can help with that, or I will show my email address at the end of this talk. You can reach out to me and I can help you with that. And so these checks will not only ensure that your system is running efficiently, but they'll also help you identify places where maybe you're irrigating the streets and sidewalks instead of the grass, and just adjust that sprinkler head so that it's irrigating only the green area. I have a coworker up in Pasco County Extension who says, just wet your plants. Just wet your plants. Make sure to fine tune those sprinkler heads so they're just watering the grass. And again, avoid that irrigation overspray, just like the one we see here. Boy, that's an amazing example. You can see it running all the way down the sidewalk and across, and it's everywhere. And often it's just the wrong spray head is in the wrong place, which can lead to this excessive runoff of that reclaimed water, again, with all of the nutrients that's in it. So be sure to be aware of that. You may need to adjust the pressure in your system, or talk to your irrigation contractor, whatever the case may be, but avoid that as much as you can. And finally, again, we've said it before, but don't overwater. Only irrigate when the soil and turf conditions indicate that it's necessary. As a rule of thumb, that's about 3/4 to an inch a week for most Florida turf grasses. But in most cases, we can look outside and we can see, oh, is the turf looking? Is it looking dry? Is it getting kind of yellow? Is it crunchy under my feet? Then it's necessary. Otherwise, maybe consider skipping one of those irrigation runs and watching your turf. And in most cases, we can typically get away with watering a little less than we think we need to. So just not overwatering, again, is a great management practice for avoiding some of those things we've talked about. Okay, so just in way of conclusion, reclaimed water is used to irrigate thousands of lawns in Florida. And again, it's a great way to offset some of our potable water reuse. It's a great resiliency tool against water scarcity, but it does come with elevated nutrients that can impair our surface waters, that nitrogen and phosphorus that we're so concerned about for the Indian River Lagoon and for other watersheds in Florida that are sensitive to excess nutrients and that often have harmful algal blooms in them. Our research is showing that about 34% of applied irrigation is wasteful overspray that can contain that nitrogen and phosphorus. And so we need to remember those best management practices that can help ensure reclaimed water is used in a way that is wise and that protects downstream water quality. And so with that, I will take any questions, and thank you for your time today. My email address is there. If you have questions later and would like to reach out to me, please feel free to do so. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. We have a number of questions in the chat. I'm going to start with a question that was asked by Vincent. And this was before you started talking about the best management practices. So you might have addressed this a little bit, But he asked whether or not there are guidelines for landscape managers, professionals on how to adjust fertilizer applications in an area that's watering with reclaimed water.
Yeah, it's a really good question. And to my knowledge, there are not. I think that's something that we still need to do some work on in extension. There are some counties, I know, for example, Pinellas County does have an online tool that people can go to, and they can say, oh, I live in this neighborhood, and that tool will tell you, oh, okay, then your reclaimed water has this concentration, and that equals this many pounds of nitrogen. Therefore, you can reduce your fertilizer application by X amount. As far as I know of, Pinellas is the only county that has a tool, something like that. There may be others, but so that, and I don't know that most people are even aware of that. It's kind of hidden online. That would be a good thing to work on statewide, I think, is to think more about that, and to teach landscape professionals about the importance of that.
I was just thinking that would be a fantastic statewide
Yeah.
project.
Yeah.
So we do have a participant asking if you would be willing to share your slides so that they can share it at their HOA meetings. I did say that we're recording this and that I provided the link to the recording. So
Okay.
I just wanted to let you know.
Okay, great. That would be great. I would love for HOAs to get the message.
Yeah, absolutely. Aaliyah asks, when you were preparing to capture the drone data, did you consider residential? And also, did you have difficulty when setting flight paths for the 3 locations?
So all of the drone data was in residential areas. And no, we didn't have any difficulty setting the flight paths. That was pretty straightforward.
Okay. Greg asks, if most reclaimed water is from sources with either primary or secondary treatment standards, isn't there likely to be an ever-increasing concentration of pharmaceuticals, PFAS, PFOAs, heavy metals in our soils, groundwater, and wetlands?
Yeah, that's a really good question too. So there are definitely those chemicals in reclaimed water. They are in very small amounts, but you're right. If we're irrigating for decades with that water, it does accumulate in soil. That's another place where we need research. I've seen very little research on the long-term effects of those chemicals in the landscape or in our agricultural fields. I would love to do some of that work. We know that it's there, and it likely is accumulating and is having all kinds of ecological impacts, perhaps. I will say that it is in very small amounts. I'm confident that if we are eating vegetables grown in that or having contact with that, it is extremely small, probably the equivalent of 1 ibuprofen in our lifetime, but nonetheless, it is there. So you're right, and I would love to see more research on that.
Thank you.
Sorry, I have a quick follow-up to that. With EPA issuing new rules on PFAS in drinking water, is there an outlook on whether wastewater is going to follow suit?
Whether there'll be more wastewater treatment, is that what you're?
Or PFAS regulations related to wastewater?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not in the wastewater treatment world that much, but I think that we're definitely looking at more and more technologies that can improve removal of those substances. Absolutely.
Thank you. For you participants, you'll notice that an evaluation poll just popped up on your screen. If you can take 5 seconds to complete that for us, that helps. Feel free to enter more questions in the chat. And also, Vincent and I are in the process of populating topics for next year's Water Ambassador series. So if there's a topic of interest that you'd like us to tackle, throw it in the chat. Okay, we have a follow-up question from Aaliyah, who talked about the flight path. She asks, she meant more so notifying nearby residents of your flight path. She said that they've had issues getting drones up.
Oh, Well, maybe I shouldn't say this, but we didn't think about that. I do, and I don't want to give the impression that we were out there illegally or just without thought. I do know that the student who was working on this did look into regulations associated with using drones, and to my knowledge, everything was above board. And I believe that it was yeah, that's a good question. We didn't really talk with residents. We didn't collect personal information. And so we weren't like saying, oh, this lawn number, this house number. We just, it was just a neighborhood in Jensen Beach, or a house, that was the extent of the personal information that we had. So I feel reasonably confident that we weren't collecting any information that we shouldn't have.
Thank you. We got a little bit more time. We hang on maybe for 2 more minutes if there's any last minute questions that pop up in the chat. Otherwise, thank you so much, Mary, for your willingness to present. Oh, we do have a question from Michael, who asks, how can I find if my city or my district is in this type of program, or how to even start one up? So Michael, can you elaborate a little bit more on what type of program you're talking about? Is it to try and determine what's in your reclaimed water, or? And if you have audio, feel free to unmute yourself.
I will add, while we're waiting for Michael's follow-up, I will add, if anybody listening here uses reclaimed water and is interested in some research, I am always looking for people willing to participate in that. So if you would be willing to have some of your lawn water analyzed, or your HOA in particular, if it was a whole neighborhood and we could get the whole HOA involved, I would love that. So if there's anybody listening that would like some research done, please reach out to me.
Great. So Mary's email is still on the slide, so you can reach out to her. And I think Michael's interested in trying to figure out where he can find what's in his reclaimed water.
Okay, yeah, shoot me an email. I'd be happy to talk to you.
Great. With that, I want to thank you all for joining us for today's webinar, as well as for the entire 10 webinars of the 2024 Water Ambassador Series. We will be continuing this series to some extent in 2025, so stay tuned as we start to fill the schedule and come up with topics and speakers that are of interest to those of you who want to help be a part of the water quality solutions in the Treasure Coast and across Florida. So thank you, everyone.
Yeah, thank you.
We do have a question about Mary. I don't know if you can address this, but it's a question about irrigating from stormwater ponds and how many nutrients are in that. And I don't know if you've done research with irrigation stormwater ponds, but
we have looked at that a little bit, and it varies incredibly. It varies a lot. It can be very similar to the groundwater in some cases. In other cases, it's not. It's crazy how variable that is. So there are a lot of neighborhoods that do that. So I'm not surprised that's a question. Yeah, the only thing I can say is it really varies. So again, you might want to maybe find someone that can test that water for you. Shoot me an email. That's another one I'd be interested in. Did we lose Lisa?
Lisa? Oh, I wonder if she froze. But yeah, she just sent me a text. Yep, she just lost power. So this seems to be spreading. But anyway, yeah, thank you, Mary. Thank you so much. And thank you everybody for tuning in. And please do send us any topics that you're interested in. I am going to put my email address and Lisa's in the chat. So if there's any topic that you are interested in related to stormwater impacts and solutions, please email us. We always try to close our year with finding out from you all what you guys are interested in. So anyway, I'm sure Lisa, I guess she was ending on thanking you, Dr. Lusk, and the same from me. And yeah, thanks for coming back too. And we will post this recording on our YouTube channel. Like as Lisa said, give us about a week. I probably will get it in before a week, but just in case we lose power or something like this. All right. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.
All right. Take care. Okay.